have to understand the second noble truth,
Un tagad mums ir jāsaprot otrā cēlā
where Buddha outlines the causes of suffering.
Kur Buddha paskaidro ciešanu cēloņus.
And he says there are two.
Un Buddha saka, ir
very simple.
Pavisam vienkārši.
Nothing to do with the outside world.
Tiem nav nekāda sakara
The
ar
main
ārējo pasauli.
causes, two main causes.
Divi galvenie cēloņi.
They're both in here.
Abi ir iekšā.
The past intentional action before in my mind, before this life.
Pagātnes darbības, kas veikts ar nodomu.
To say, you know, punch Jānis in the nose.
Kas saka,
speaking really simplistically now.
Iebauz Jāni pa degunu.
Okay. Karma is the past action, the intentional action, whatever it is you did.
Karma ir tās pagātnes apzinātās darbības.
That leaves a seed in the mind, an imprint, a tendency in the mind.
Kas ir iedēstījuši prātā noteikto nospiedumu sēku.
It's just the way the mind works.
Tas ir tas veids, kā darbojas
prāts. And the second cause of suffering, the main one,
un otrais tiešām cēlonis,
the delusion that motivated it.
Ir tie maldi, kas to motivē.
These are the two main causes of suffering.
Tie ir galvenie divi tiešām.
So then we look at the present right now.
Kad mēs raugamies uz šo brīdi.
And we look at the actions we do.
Un uz tām darbībām, ko
punch in the nose.
Iebauzam pa degunu.
Eat the cake.
Ēdam kūku.
Crave for the nice things.
Vēlamies jaukās lietas.
And the delusion here is called attachment.
Tos maldus šeit sauc par pieķeršanos.
So everything we do, so the attachment, if when we understand that the happiness we get now,
ja mēs saprotam, ka tā laime, ko mēs domājam šobrīd,
what we call happiness,
to, ko mēs saucam
par laimi,
ko Buddha sauc par ciešanām,
is when attachment gets what it wants.
Ir tas, kad pieķeršanās dabū to, ko tā.
So it's a honey-covered razor blade.
Tā kā tas ir žilets sasmens, kas ir nokārts ar
It's basically the junkie mode.
Faktiski tās ir atkarības režīms.
You know, a person who's an alcoholic.
Cilvēks, kurš ir alkoholiks.
Of course, they know and we know that it's actually suffering, but the energy of attachment is so intense and the craving to get the object is so powerful that the feeling then is, I must get what I want. That's what we think happiness is, getting what I want now.
Gan es, gan šis atkarīgais cilvēks zina, ka tā ir negatīva lieta, bet šī pieķeršanās enerģija ir tik spēcīga, ka tā burtiski pievelk nebūt to, ko tā vēlas.
That's attachment.
Tā ir pieķeršanās.
So Buddha's not, you know, I would say we're all junkies. It's just a question of degree.
Un Buddha saka, mēs visi esam atkarīgie, tikai jautājums ir kādā pakāpē.
So attachment for the Buddha is really another word for addiction.
Un pieķeršanās Budam ir vienkārši cits apzīmējums atkarībai.
You know, of course, in our culture, we only think it's the extreme addicts at the far end, the alcoholics, the heroin addicts. They're the junkies. I'm normal.
Un parasti mēs domājam, ka īsti atkarīgi ir tikai tie, kas ir narkomāni, alkoholiķi, un es nemaz neesmu atkarīgais.
But having any attachment at all, Buddha says, you are suffering.
Bet, ja mums ir jebkāda veida pieķeršanās, Buddha saka, mēs ciešam.
So how is getting what attachment wants suffering?
Un tad kā tas, ka mēs dabūjam to, ko mēs gribam,
understanding it technically is so important.
Vienkārši saprast to tehniski ir ārkārtīgi svarīgi.
Because if you don't understand this, how can you look into your mind and observe it?
Jo, ja mēs nespējam ieraudzīt to, kā mēs varam ielūkoties savā prātā.
Well, basically, as Buddha's saying, you know, the Four Noble Truths, effectively attachment runs the show every day. Like we discussed 2 days ago. Someone asked, you know, basically it's attachment. Yes.
Buddha šajās 4 cēlējās patiesībās pamatā saka, ka pieķeršanās ir tā, kas vada mūsu dzīvi ikdienā.
And this desperate craving to get what I want every microsecond.
Un šī izmisīgā vēlēšanās dabūt to, ko es vēlos katru mikrosekundu.
It's kind of frantic.
Tas ir vienkārši saprot.
It's not the main delusion either.
Un tas pat nav galvenais.
Remember, it's rooted in the root delusion called ego grasping.
Pats galvenais tiek saucts par ego pieķeršanos.
This mistaken sense of self.
Šo maldīgo es priekšstatu.
Which gives rise to this craving to get what it wants.
Kas liek parādīties šai vēlmei dabūt to, ko tā vēlas.
So what we spend our lives doing is trying to fulfill the needs of this attachment.
Un tas, ko mēs darām visu savu dzīvi, ir vēlamies piepildīt šīs savas...
Believing utterly that when I get the cake, when I get the husband, when I get the green light, when I get the nice sound, the nice smell, the nice taste, then I'll get happiness.
Pilnīgi esot pārliecinātiem par to, tad, kad es dabūšu zaļās gaismas, jau ko vīru, kūku un tā tālāk, es būšu laimīgs.
That is what happiness is.
Un tas ir tas, kas ir laime.
Look at the world.
Paskaties
we can deduce that this is the philosophy of the world.
Mēs varam reducēt, ka tā ir vispasaules
filosofija. And not just humans.
Un ne tikai
the
cilvēkiem.
Giraffes, the ants, the dogs, the fish, the same.
Arī priekš žirafēm, skudrām,
this is samsara, what it says.
Tas arī ir viss patiesi.
We're caught up in these neuroses.
Ka mēs esam ietverti šajās neurozēs.
So, how is getting the cake suffering?
Tad, ko nozīmē, ka mēs dabūjam kūku, tās ir ciešanas?
The short term, like the alcohol, we can see, short term is the craving is there, the craving is fixated on the object, and the yearning is desperate to get it in the mouth. to satisfy the yearning, to satisfy the craving. That's what attachment is. We can see it, isn't it? Like that all the time.
Īstermiņā mēs varam redzēt, ka uzmanība ir fokusēta uz šo kūku, un tā vēlme ir dabūt to par katru cenu.
So anybody with half a brain can see that the real suffering of craving alcohol and getting it.
Tad katrs var redzēt, ka tās patiesās ciešanas, kad mēs dabūjam alkoholu vai
is that it increases the craving.
Ir tas, ka tā tikai palielina to vēlmi pēc tā.
The instinct when you do it is that it'll satisfy the craving now.
Tas instinkts ir tas, kad mēs apmierināsim šīs vēlmes šajā brīdī.
And it does.
Un tas tā notiek.
But what it really does in the long term is increase the craving.
Bet tas, ko tas ilgtermiņā padara, ir tas tikai pieaudzē šīs
simply
vēlmes.
why attachment is the cause of suffering.
Un tieši tāpēc pieķeršanās ir visu problēmu cēlonis.
Even the more obvious gross level.
Pat visrūpjākajā redzamākajā
alcohol or chocolate cakes for that matter, no difference.
Alkohols vai šokolādes kūka atšķirīgi.
Just it takes more chocolate cakes to make you miserable than it does alcohol.
Vienkārši ir nepieciešams vairāk šokolādes kūkas nekā alkohols, lai padarītu jūs
as you're putting in the cake.
Kad jūs bāgat
so excited.
Kūku mutē, jūs tā izcīnāt.
Because already, attachment has multi-facets.
Pieķeršanai ir daudz dažādas
energetic level is primordial dissatisfaction.
Enerģijas līmenī tā ir tāda liela neapmierinātība.
This is the consequence of having attachment in the past.
Tas ir tā rezultāts, ka mums ir bijuši
pieķeršanās pagātnē. Deep sense of dissatisfaction.
Mēs piedzimstam ar šo lielo neapmierinātības
sajūtu. What's that mean?
Ko tas nozīmē?
I'm not enough.
Kad es neesmu
I don't have enough.
Ka man nepietiek.
No matter what I get, it's never enough.
Neatkarīgi no tā, ko es dabūju, nekad
nepietiek. It's a deep, deep suffering.
Tās ir
This is what attachment is at the deepest level, energetic level. Dissatisfaction.
Enerģētiskajā dziļākajā līmenī tas ir tas, ka ir ciešanas liela.
So naturally, using the grossest level, our senses, we're always looking for something out there, such that when I get it, it'll satisfy that dissatisfaction. Isn't it?
Un tad dabīgi šķiet, ka šajā rūpīgākajā līmenī, ja mēs nebūsim apmierināt savus maņas, tad mēs būsim laimīgi.
So the cake is there.
Tad tur ir kūka.
The dissatisfaction.
Šeit ir neapmierinātība.
The cake is there.
Bet kūka.
Then the other way attachment works, which is the killer.
Un tad vēl viens veids, kā darbojas
It
pieķeršanās.
makes the cake look far more delicious than it really is, like we've been talking.
Ka tā liek kūkai izskatīties daudzkārt garšīgākai nekā tā patiesībā ir.
It's kind of vibrating deliciousness, isn't it?
Un tad no turienes sāk vibrēt garšīgums.
And like I said before, this is how deep this attachment is.
Un kā es iepriekš teicu, tas ir tas, cik dziļīgi šī pieķeršanās.
It's all the cake's fault, not mine. I'm just sitting here innocent, you know.
Un tad visa vaina ir tikai kūkai, šeit nevienīgi sēž.
That's how it looks, isn't it?
Tā tas izskatās no malas.
Lie, Buddha said.
Bet Buddha saka, tie ir meli.
So then what do we do?
Un ko mēs darām?
Utterly, this is the next level of attachment, the desperate craving to get it.
Un tālāk ir nākošais pieķeršanās līmenis, ka mēs vēlamies to ļoti dabūt.
Then the manipulation to get it.
Un sākam manipulēt.
Then the massive expectation.
Un tad parādās liels
when I get it, I'll get happy.
Tad, kad es to dabūšu, būšu laimīgs.
I mean, what a setup for disaster.
Un kāds scenārijs, kas novadīs pie nelaimes, kad mēs paņemam kūku,
and look in your mind. Even as you're chewing the first mouthful.
Pat tad, kad mēs pagājušajam pirmo kumosu.
You're already desperately trying to get the second one.
Mēs jau varamies pie
already anticipating the next one.
Mēs jau varamies pie
the more the craving, the more you're doing this.
Un jo lielāka neapmierinātība, jo vairāk.
Keep putting it in.
Mēs turpinām.
Waiting for happiness.
Gaidām laimi.
Craving the next one.
Vēlamies pēc.
Haven't got happiness yet.
Nesam iegūti.
Stomach's getting fuller.
Vēders kļūst pilnās.
There's no satisfaction coming.
Bet laime nerāda.
Putting another mouthful in, waiting for satisfaction to come.
Atkal iebāžam nākošo gabaliņu.
Still not coming.
Parādās laime.
Getting desperate now. Your stomach's getting fuller.
Ļoti izmisuši, jo vēders.
You think maybe the next mouthful will do it.
Tad ceram, ka
put it in the next one.
Padarīs mums
I mean,
laimīgus.
eventually what happens?
Un kas notiek vēl
You've got to stop.
Mums ir jāapstās.
You'd vomit if you didn't.
Mēs izvēmjamies, ja mēs vēl
and what's happened to it?
Un kas notiek?
It's called, if that's a suffering of change.
Tās ir
it's turned into the gross suffering.
Tās ir rupjās ciešanas.
Now how does cake look?
Un tagad kā?
Disgusting.
Not
even cool yet.
Pretīgi.
But it looks already repulsive.
Tā vēl nav atzīst.
What's in your mind?
Pretīgi. Kas ir?
No longer attachment.
Un jūs prātā vairs nepietīšanās. Tagad ir nepatīk.
And distress.
Un
you stuffed yourself.
Mēs esam pieradušies.
You're going to think, oh, I'll eat less tomorrow, and you're counting the calories, you know.
Tad mēs sākam domāt, ka mums ir jādara
mazākās
kalorijas, mēs jūtamies vainīgi.
And you didn't get any happiness.
Un mēs nekļuvām laimīgi.
So it's turned into suffering right now in front of you.
Tā kā mūsu priekšā
And the worst suffering of all,
tā pieķeršanās
you
ir
just increase your craving for more cake tomorrow.
par nelaimi, un sliktākais ir tas, ka mēs esam
Now,
radījuši
every happiness we get, every happiness we get,
ko mēs dabūjam,
the most blissful boyfriend in the universe,
vissaulaimīgākais puisis visumā, tas ir tas kā šeit.
which is very depressing, isn't it?
Un tas ir ļoti nomācīgi.
Now we kind of know it.
Mēs it kā
From our experience, we know it.
No mūsu
But we
pieredzes,
can't bear to look at it.
bet mēs nespējam
It
to
is
paraudzīties.
too painful.
Tas ir pārāk sāpīgi.
And this is what we have to do.
Un tas ir tas, kas mums ir
So
jādara.
if this is the suffering of the, you know, I mentioned Arturo, the young Mexican prisoner who wrote to Lamazote. Remember that? I told you in the second half of the first night.
Un vienā no pirmajiem vakariem es minēju par meksikāņu puisi Arturo, kas aizrakstīja Lamazotām.
Who's sitting in his little cell 23 hours a day.
Sējuši savā mazajā būrītī.
Bit bigger than that after.
3 stundas dienā, kas ir
Bit
nedaudz
bigger.
lielāka
Not
par
much,
to.
yeah, but the length of a bed, that's a bit small for a bed, but the length of a bed, plus a bit more, and a toilet, and then a bunk above it for your room, your cellmate.
Šis kambaris ietver 2 oltas vāliņas un toalets.
No windows.
Nekādu logu.
An intense, screaming, aggressive noise all around you about 20 hours a day.
Un jums ir ārkārtīgas skaņas trokšņi kliekšana.
Just like a nightmare, like hell.
Gluži kā ela vai...
And Rinpoche said to him, your prison's nothing in comparison with the inner prison of ordinary people.
Un Rinpoche viņam teica, ka tavs cietums nav nekas, salīdzinot ar
The
citu
prison of
būtu
attachment, anger, pride, jealousy.
parasto cietumu, kas ir pieķeršanās,
This is the one we just described.
Un tas ir tas, ka mēs
The suffering of attachment.
Pieķeršanās
And all the delusions have come as a result.
Un viss pārējie maldi nāk kā rezultāts.
So it's shocking to hear this.
Un tas ir šokējoši to tā dzirdēt.
This is what we have to learn to investigate.
Bet tas ir tas, kas mums ir
Now,
jāmācās.
if you cannot investigate this level of your suffering,
Ja mēs nespējam izpētīt šo savu
and then be
ciešanu
so
līmeni,
exhausted by it,
un ja mēs neesam no tā noguruši,
and vomit at the thought of more of that suffering,
un mēs nevemjam no domas par
And
vēl jaunām ciešanām,
desperate to go beyond that suffering,
un neesam izmisuši, lai dotos aiz šīm ciešanām,
which is like saying having compassion for yourself.
savā ziņā tā ir līdzjūtība pret
It
sevi.
is impossible to have compassion for others.
Un ja mums nav šāda veida līdzjūtība pret sevi, tad nav iespējams, ka mēs esam
Because the
līdzjūtīgi pret citiem.
basis for compassion for others
Jo pamats līdzjūtībā pret citiem
is that they've got the same suffering as you.
ir tas, ka viņi citām būtnēm ir tāds par ciešanas kā jums. Šīs iekļaujas
Prison of attachment,
pieķeršanās
of anger,
cietums,
violence, of insanity. Look at the world.
Paskaties uz pasauli.
So you won't understand that until you've done the wisdom work. It's just not possible.
Un to mēs nespēsim saprast, kamēr mēs nebūsim paveikuši šo darbu gudrības spārnā.
So we haven't even completed what renunciation is yet.
Un tad mēs vēl neesam pilnībā apskatījuši.
You've seen the first part.
Mēs redzējām šo pirmo
You've
daļu.
noticed this suffering, and this takes a while.
Mēs pamanījām šīs ciešanas, un tas jau prasa laiku.
Not to mention the gross suffering.
Nemaz nerunājam par rupjām ciešanām.
And we haven't even mentioned the subtler suffering called all-pervasive suffering.
Un tad mēs vēl neesam minējuši trešo ciešanu veidu, kas ir viss cauraugošās ciešanas.
So until we've gone into this deeply,
Un ja mēs neielūkamies tā
which
dziļi,
means deeply into your own mind,
kas nozīmē dziļi mūsu pašu prātā,
using Buddha's view of the mind,
izmantojot mūsu prāta modeli,
these delusions,
šos
and how there's a
maldus,
source of suffering,
kā tie ir ciešanas āvoni,
this inner prison.
šis iekšējais cietums.
Lama Yeshe says, I can tell you about attachment for a whole year. You'll never begin to understand it until you start to look deeply into your own mind, building something up in there, you know.
Lamieši saka, ka es varu stāstīt jums par ciešanām un pieķeršanos veselu gadu, bet jūs to nemaz nesāksiet saprast, ja jūs neielūkosieties savā iekšienē.
So you're sick of this suffering.
Un jūs esat
But that's not enough.
no šīm ciešanām.
You've now got to say, what can I do about it?
Un tagad mums ir jāsaka, ko es varu darīt šīs
Because that's action.
Jo tā ir darbība.
It's not enough to say, oh look, I've got cancer.
Nepietiek ar to, ka mēs ieraugām,
Oh, I'm
ka
so sick of cancer.
vai vēzis.
Can't stand cancer.
Es nevaru izturēt.
Fed up with cancer. It's not enough, is it?
Ar to nepietiek.
You've got to say, what do I do about it?
Jums ir jāsaka, ko es tagad varu iesākt.
This is crucial.
Un tas ir būtiski.
Well, to do that, you've got to investigate the causes of cancer, don't you?
Lai te mēs varētu rīkoties, mums ir jāizpēt, kāda ir cēloņi šim vēzim.
So this is the second component of renunciation.
Un tā ir atteikšanās
What are the causes of this suffering?
Kas ir ciešana cēloņi.
And this gets us to the essence of Buddha's view.
Un tas noved pie Buddhas skatījuma pašu būtiskākā.
Expressed as a second level truth.
Tas ir ietvertā otrajā
Past karmic action.
pagātnes kaimas darbība.
And the delusion that motivates.
Un maldi, kas to motivē.
Which causes me to get punched in the nose this life.
Kas liek man saņemt belzienu par
to have attachment at all.
Vai vispār liek pieķerties kaut kam.
Based upon, in other words, based upon the delusion. The delusion is the thing that motivates the negative actions.
Vienmēr sakot, maldi ir tie, kas motivē šīs negatīvās darbības.
So we have to understand karma and delusions.
Mums ir jāsaprot karma un maldi.
The main causes of my suffering.
Kas ir galvenie man ciešana cilvēki.
So when I understand that,
un kad es to saprotu,
I now know why I suffer.
Es saprotu, kāpēc es ciešu.
That I am the cause of my suffering.
Ka es esmu savu ciešanu
And
cilvēki.
this is so grown up.
Un tas ir tik
This is
pieaugušs.
so mature, if you like.
Tik nobriedis.
So courageous.
Un tik drosmīgs veids.
Self-confident.
Pašpārliecināts.
So renunciation is two parts.
Tātad atteikšanās sastāv no divām daļām.
I'm sick of suffering.
Ka man ir apļaujušās
And now
ciešanas.
I know why.
Un tagad es zinu, kāpēc.
My stupid karma,
Mana
my stupid delusions.
stulbā kārma un stulbība.
And it's like compassion for yourself.
Un faktiski tā ir līdzjūtība.
You should be weeping with compassion for yourself.
Mums būtu jāraud no līdzjūtības.
Not guilt,
Nevis no vainas,
which we run to like a magnet.
Kas mūs pievelk kā
We
magnēts.
love to hate ourselves and beat ourselves up.
Mums patīk ienīst sevi un sist sevi.
And that's totally the wrong approach to karma.
Un tas ir pilnīgi nepareizs pieņēmums karmai.
Which is why we misunderstand karma.
Un tas ir tas, kāpēc mēs pārprotam karmu.
Which is why we don't like to think about it.
Un tas ir tas, kāpēc mēs
So when we've got our heads around this stuff, which is the wisdom wing, which is junior school and high school, which is already massive.
Un kad mēs esam izpratuši šo pamatskolas un vidusskolas tēmu, kas jau ir milzīgs solis.
Even intellectually understanding this is incredible.
Pat, ja mēs to saprotam tikai intelektuāli, tas
Then
jau
you're
ir
prepared to have compassion.
ļoti svarīgi, tad mēs esam gatavi piedzīvot
So,
līdzjūtību.
because compassion is identical to renunciation, the difference is others is the object, not you.
Jo līdzjūtība ir identiska atteikšanās, tikai šoreiz tas objekts ir nevis jūs, bet nav cits.
First point,
Pirmā
you see them suffering.
Mēs redzam, ka
And you see them causing others suffering, which is causing suffering to themselves.
mēs redzam, kā viņi skaitāja citām būtnēm, kas savukārt liekas
Well, no, you see them suffering.
Bet pietiek ar to, ka jūs redzat
You
viņus.
see them harming others.
Mēs redzam, ka viņus dara
And now
pārspēt.
you know why now.
Un tagad jūs zināt, kāpēc.
Karma and delusions.
Karma un maldi.
Their karma and their delusions.
Viņu karma un viņu maldi.
That's the basis for compassion.
Tas ir pamats
And
līdzjūtībai.
once you've got that,
Un kad jūs to esat
you can have
sapratuši,
compassion for everybody easily. It's not a problem. For the worst torturers, for the rapists, for the murderers, the maniacs, the Hitlers, as well as for those who are getting harmed by them.
tā, kad mēs to esam sapratuši, mēs varam attīstīt līdzjūtību pret tik vienu, pret
It's logical.
Hitleriem, izvarotājiem,
But
visiem
you
tā
can't do
tālāk.
this until you've got the nuts and bolts of renunciation clear, which is Buddha's teachings about the mind and karma.
Un tas ir skaidrs, bet mēs nespējam pie tā nonākt, kamēr mēs nesam izpratuši iepriekšējo
One step at a time.
un jāvērsās ar soli pa solim uz priekšu.
So right now we have compassion,
Un šobrīd mums ir līdzjūtība.
but it's really, it's as Rinpoche says, it's unstable.
Bet, kā Rinpoche saka, tā ir nestabila.
Why?
Kāpēc?
Because we have compassion for only two people, two kinds of people.
Jo mums ir līdzjūtība tikai par diviem cilvēku veidiem.
Innocent victims, well, one group, they're called innocent victims.
Viena grupa ir tiek saukt par nevainīgiem.
And the usual one is they're our people, they're our friends.
Un parasti tie mūsu draugi.
You could say we have compassion for babies and animals.
Mēs varam teikt, ka mums ir
That's about it
līdzjūtība
in our culture.
mazuļiem un dzīvniekiem.
We think all poor little innocent little doggy woggies and pussy wussies.
Mēs jūtam līdzjūtību pret nabaga mazajiem kaķīšiem un sunīšiem,
Harmed by mean, awful humans.
kuriem dara pāri lielie.
We don't mind they harm each other.
Mēs neredzam, kā viņi dara pāri sev otram. Viens otram.
Unless of course it's your cat or your dog, then you get upset.
Protams, ja vienā tur nav iesaistīts jūs pēc
We're so narrow in our, so hilarious really, if I tell you.
patiesībā mēs esam apbrīnojami.
But in general we now have compassion for people who are our friends
Bet būtībā mums šobrīd ir līdzjūtība pret cilvēkiem, kas ir mūsu draugi
or innocent victims.
vai nevainīgi cilvēki.
And what's it based on?
Un uz kāds ir balstīts
In that they're being innocent victims.
to, ka viņi
And what philosophy is that?
Un kas ir tā
The
filozofija?
materialist philosophy.
Materiālisms.
They didn't ask to get born.
Ka viņi
It's not their
nav,
fault.
lai viņi piedzimtu.
How dare that mean man kick that poor dog?
Tā nav viņa vaina, kā viņš uzdrīkstējās
So our compassion for the dog, within a second, turns into anger for the man.
Un tad mūsu līdzjūtība pret suni uzreiz pārvērš par niknumu pret to spērēju.
You know, some mean country, who harms Latvia? Who's enemies? Who's historical enemies of Latvia?
Russia.
Russia. Okay. So when, you know, Russians harm Latvians,
Kad Krievi dara pāri latviešiem.
of course you get upset for Latvians.
Protams, ka mēs...
They're my people.
uztraucamies par
Those
latviešiem,
people over there harm me.
jo viņi ir manējiem, bet
This is how we all
tur
think. The
kaitē
victim
manējiem.
mode is how we all think, is ego.
Un šis upura režīms ir tas, kā
And
mēs
it's
domājam.
based upon this mistaken view. Buddha would suggest it's mistaken.
Un Buddha saka, tas ir balstīts uz šo nepareizo
That
priekšstatu,
we're all innocent victims.
ka mēs visi esam
I
nevainīgi.
didn't ask to get born.
Ka mēs
It's
neesam
not my
mūsu
fault.
ka tā nav mūsu vaina.
It's always someone else's fault.
Un ka tā vienmēr ir kāds
This is the
vaina.
view of ego.
Tas ir šis ego skatījums.
You know, like I said, we even blame the chocolate cake for making me happy. It's all its fault. It's not my fault. That's how ego is.
Un mēs pat redzam, ka šokolādes kūklīkums domā, ka tā pagar mums laimīgus. Tas ir kas tā
But what's fascinating is this. We agonize about why do bad things happen to me.
Bet fascinējošais ir tas, ka mēs agonizējam par to, kāpēc sliktas lietas notiek ar mani.
We never agonize. Why do good things happen to me?
Es nekad neesmu agonizējis par to, kāpēc ar mani notiek labas
Just
lietas.
give me more, please.
Vienkārši tad man
But it's the
vairāk.
same logic.
Tā ir tāpat loģika.
You know, I blame the cake for making me happy.
Es vainoju kūku, tāpat man laimīgi.
You know, I blame, Jan for punching me in the nose.
Es vainoju Jānu, ka viņš iebauž man pat eglu.
So we're ridiculous.
Tad mēs esam vienkārši smieklīgi.
You know, karma says we put ourselves in our own situation.
Karma saka, mēs paši esam nolikuši sevi savā situācijā.
Due to our past negative actions,
Un mūsu negatīvo iepriekšējo darbu
I
dēļ
create the cause to have a person in front of me who punches me in the nose.
es esmu radījusi to iemeslu, kāpēc man šobrīd atrodas cilvēks priekšā, kas iebauž man pat eglu.
And then because I think I'm innocent,
Un tā kā es domāju, ka
how dare you
cilvēki,
punch me, so I punch him back.
kā tu uzdrīkstējies man iebauž,
So like another thing in my life.
un tad vēl viena
He
lieta,
punched again.
ir iesis tā
This is the
kā.
vicious circle of samsara.
Un tas ir samsāras aplis, ka nebeidz.
So this one of karma is massive. Experientially, the implication of it is massive.
Un tas, ko tas nozīmē, ir ārkārtīgi būtisks notiekums.
So when we got that clear in the wisdom wing,
Un kad mēs to esam sapratuši šajā gudrības spārnā,
beginning to be clear, even intellectually,
un sākam to saprast kaut ko
now
intelektuāli,
we have a sound basis for valid compassion.
tagad mums ir stabils, labs pamats, lai attīstītu.
Because it includes enemies, friends and strangers.
Jo tagad mēs varam ietvert gan svešniekus, gan
You know, we're going to go into
ienaidniekus.
later all these little kind of 11 techniques of how to cultivate bodhicitta.
Un tad mēs varam iziet cauri visiem šiem tehnikas soļiem, kā
Laid out in the lab.
kas ir minēti
Step by baby step.
soli pa solim.
That culminates in this marvelous technique that's mentioned here, which is the essence of this exchanging self for others approach, the technique called Tomlin.
Un tas noslēdzās ar šo brīnišķīgo tehniku, kas cits starpā ir minēts šajos pantos, kas saucās par sevis apmainīšanu.
So these simple words, you know,
Šie vienkāršie vārdi
implies all of this.
ietver sevī to visu.
And if you don't understand, you know, at least minimally understand this, you can't really get the meaning implied here.
Un ja jūs pat minimāli to nesaprotat, tad jūs nevarat īsti saprast to jēgu, kas ir ietver šajos
It's
vārdos.
like reading, you know, E equals MC squared.
Tas ir tāpat kā izlasīt E ir vienāds ar MC
Oh, I can
kvadrātā.
say that, that's easy.
Es varu to pateikt.
E equals MC squared.
E ir vienāds MC kvadrātā.
But look at how much you have to study to get to understand that meaning that's packed into it.
Bet jūs zināt, cik daudz jums ir jāstudē, lai saprastu, ko tas nozīmē.
Many books, right?
Daudz grāmatu.
Get my point.
Jūs
Same
saprotat,
here. You can repeat these words easily,
jūs varat atkārtot šos vārdus vienkārši.
but look at the meaning implied in them.
Bet, lai saprastu to jēgu, kas ir tajos ietvert.
You get my point?
Vai jūs
So
saprotat?
that means you have to listen to the teaching.
Tā kā tas nozīmē, ka
And
jums
know where they all
jāsaprot
fit in
tas
this big package.
un jāsaprot, kurā vietā tās iedarās.
So when we understand this and we try attempting ourselves to cultivate this marvelous compassion for sentient beings,
Un, kad mēs to saprotam un cenšamies attīstīt šo lielo līdzjūtību pret vienkāršiem
determined to get the greatest benefit from every one of these suffering mothers,
lai gūtu lielāko labumu no katras no šīm
I will hold them as most dear at all times.
Tāpēc es viņus vērtēju kā visdārgākās katru brīdi.
Pretty outrageous.
Tas ir uzmanīgi.
But you start with a thought, don't you?
Bet tā ir man
We
doma.
can't make it happen just by saying it.
Mēs nevaram vienkārši panākt, lai tas notiek vienkārši to
You've
sakot.
got to start with a thought.
Mums ir jāsāk ar to.
Put the seed in,
Jāiedēs savī sākā.
which is how we learn everything.
Un tas ir tas, kā mēs iemācāmies visu.
Any questions about that, please?
Vai ir kādi jautājumi
Any of
par
that? About suffering, about karma, about and all the other business as well.
to? Par ciešanu, karmu, citām lietām, jau ko man minētā.
Jā, man ir tāds jautājums, ka skolotāji tad pieminēja to sist vai nesist, teiksim, kas tad ir tas virzītājs spēks, to sist vai nesist.
So, what's the driving force between punching someone or not punching someone? What's the
At the moment, wait, what happens? What do you think?
Nu, tad ir brīdī, kad ir šī izvēles iespēja, vai atbildēt uz to sišanu vai neatbildēt uz to sišanu.
Kas ir tas, kas to nosaka?
Jā, kas to nosaka? Un kas ir tam cēlonis? Vai sitīšu, vai nesitīšu?
So, what's the factor that rules whether you punch someone?
It's the same question as last night. Same question.
Jā, tas ir būtībā pats jautājums, ko tu uzdevi vakar.
Tell me the answer.
Pasaki man tagad atbildi.
What do you think?
Ko tu domā?
You're really practical. You mean you're in front of somebody and you got to the point where you're about to punch them. Is that what you're saying?
Labi, tagad tu esi kādu cilvēku priekšā un domā viņam sist vai nesist.
Is that the scenario?
Tas ir scenārijs.
Jā.
Okay, so already what's going on in your mind?
Kas
Sounds pretty
notiek
clear.
tā?
What's the delusion called?
Kā šos malus sauc, kas ir tavā prātā?
What's the delusion called? Sweetheart, there's anger, attachment, jealousy. Is it one of those, perhaps? That's why you want to punch somebody. What could it be?
Pieķeršanās.
Which one?
Kas no tiem?
Mostly, usually.
Parasti.
Sweetheart, come on!
Ignorance.
Oh, come on, don't be What's the obvious, immediate one?
Anger.
I want him to answer, come on. What is it called?
Kas ir tiešām no tām emocijām, vai tu domā kādu iesi vai nē?
Nē, emocija būs dusmas, jā.
Anger.
Thank you very much. Okay, now wouldn't you say it must have heated up pretty intensely to get to the point where your fist is about to punch? It's already gone pretty extreme by now, hasn't it? Wouldn't you think?
Vai tu nepiekrist tam, kad iekšā notikusi jau noteikti uzkaršana līdz tam brīdim, kad tu domā kādam iesi?
So I think just before the punch goes to the nose is not the time to say, what should I do?
Vai tu nepiekrist, ka tas brīdis, kad tu taisies kādam iegos pa dagu un nav tas īstākais, lai domātu, ko tu tagad darīsi?
That's like saying you're on the freeway, going 140 kilometers an hour,
Tas ir tas pats kā teikt, ka tu esi uz lielceļu un tu esi 40 km.
and you're about to hit the car in front.
Un jūs
Just about
taisies
to.
trāpīt pa mašīnu, kas jums
And you
priekšā.
say, what should I do?
Un tagad jūs jautājat,
It's
ko
a
man
bit late
darīt?
to ask that question.
Tas ir nedaudz par vēlu.
What you should have done was notice it coming a good few, meters beforehand,
Tas, ko tev vajadzēja darīt, ir pamanīt to jau
and then change your course,
un tad mainīt savu virzienu,
so you can avoid
lai
it.
jūs varētu izvairīties no mašīnu.
So awareness of your mind,
Jūs prāt,
which you get from doing junior school and high school,
apzinātību, ko jūs vadījuši pamatskolā, vidusskolā,
and knowing what your mind is,
un zināt savu
and
prātu,
understanding what anger is,
un saprotot, kas
and
ir
understanding when attachment doesn't get what it wants,
un saprotot, kas ir tas, kad
and working on your mind day after day after day after day after day,
pieķeršanās nebūtu ko tās vēlas un darbs ar prātu katru dienu.
then you will avoid getting to the point of then having to ask, what do I do when I'm about to punch somebody? Because you would have already worked on your mind to stop the punch and have your fist staying your side.
Tad tu vairs nenonāks tādā situācijā, ka tev dūre izvirzīsies priekšā, lai iebāzt kādam pa degunu, tu jau būsi atkāpies no tā soli.
Because the punch is just the servant of your mind, isn't it?
Jo tas belziens ir tikai tavu prātā.
Like if you're playing piano, the hand's just the servant of the music in your mind.
Tāpat kā tu spēlē klavieres, tavs rokas ir tikai
And the
prātā.
training of your mind.
Un tavas...
Your hand just does the job when you're trained in the mind.
Un tavas rokas vienkārši dara darbu, kad tu esi trenējis savu prātu.
Same here.
Tās pats šeit.
Are we communicating?
Vai mēs saprotamies?
Jā, bet tad man jautājums, vai vienmēr parādoties objektam pirmā, kas tam ir doma, vai ir arī automātiski atbildi bez domas?
What's he saying?
Basically, he's asking whether when an object appears, there always is a thought in you appearing, or is there an automatic reaction without a thought?
I've answered that since I've sat in this room first day.
What
do you think the answer is, even though you've asked it?
Es esmu atbildējis uz šo jautājumu, jo...
And again, we talked about all this in detail yesterday.
Pirmā brīža, kad es esmu šeit, un mēs...
And I just said, are you going to answer right now? I said the punch is merely the servant of what's in your mind.
Es, kā jau tev teicu, tas belziens ir tikai tavs prāta kalps.
And if it's a deeply habitual habit,
un ja tas ir dziļi iesēdies ieradums,
then it will seem like it's automatic if you punch.
Tad liksies, ka tas ir automātiski.
Like the fear we talked yesterday.
Tāpat kā bailes, kā mēs vakar runājām.
But it's in your mind.
Bet tas ir no tava prāta.
Much practice.
Tas nāk no
So
liels
then it feels like spontaneous.
Un tā ir tas sajūta, ka tas ir spontāni.
Just like when you practice piano,
Tāpat kā, kad mēs esam praktizējuši klaveru
it's
spēli.
spontaneous that you play it.
Tas ir spontāni, ka mēs
Same.
Tas ir tas pats.
Believe me, if you had no mind, if you were a dead body, your hands would not play the piano.
Teiksim man, ja